Hi, everybody. It's Bob Ost, and it's Friday, so it's the TRU Community Gathering. Welcome all. Glad to have you with us. If you want to actually be in the room, guys, those of you who are in YouTube and podcast land, just email me at trunltd@aol.com, trunltd@aol.com, and I'll put you on the list, and you'll be a guest, and you'll be in the room, and you can ask questions and participate, which we like. We like when people do that. We've been doing this, for those of you who don't know us, the three of you who don't know us, we've been doing this since August 17th, 2020. It was a response to COVID. It was a response to shutdown. And my response to people who said, well, you should try doing virtual was, what? So I didn't know what virtual was. And so somebody took my hand and showed me and introduced me to Zoom, my new best friend. And I figured out how to do this. And I also offered people in my community the opportunity to maybe get together on Zoom. We were all alone. We were all isolated. You all remember that now. It became a popular thing. And I suddenly felt I had something to do every Friday. And this is, I think, the 153rd or 154th. I have to actually go back and count. 153rd or 54th consecutive Friday that we're doing this. It's still a community service. It's still something that we do because we just think it's important for people to come together and be a community. What's interesting is that the community 3 years ago was a New York community. TRU is really a New York organization, and I had people say, you should go virtual, you'll become global. And I would go, oh, please, how are we going to be global? Well, this is how we be global. We be global now. We have people who come in from all over the world. We certainly have people from all over the United States. I think it's a rare Friday where the New Yorkers aren't outnumbered by the people from outside of New York. It's a good thing. It's always good to find the positives and things and experiences that could otherwise feel like they were negative. I think there were lots of reasons why we went through shutdown, and I think there were a lot of good reasons for it. And it wasn't easy, but we're out of it now. We're talking about things other than isolation. We're going out sometimes with masks, most people without masks now. COVID's still there, though, guys. It's still there. Take it from somebody who's had it 3 times. So let's all continue to be cautious. If nothing else, I think 3 years of shutdown taught us to be really conscious of the other people on the planet with us, and respectful. Hopefully, we do want to all get together and get along on this relatively small planet, if you consider how big the universe itself is. So we're no longer talking about isolation. We're no longer talking about all those things. Today is a real normal topic. It's something that's not remotely related to being in shutdown, although shutdown has had some impact on it. It's the awards. It's the theater awards. This is the time of year where a lot of, well, I think every one of the major awards announces their nominees, and we're suddenly talking about the season, the theater season, and this business that was closed down for so long that suddenly is open again and hopefully gaining traction. I know that it's been a tough slog for a lot of people in theater, and we're still finding our way. But isn't it nice to have the normalcy of an awards season that actually uses a full slate of a year of theater, and there's so much to choose from, and there's so many awards that are being given out. And I'm going to just stop this rambling and bring my guests in, because they got lots more interesting things to say than I do. We have an interesting lineup representing a lot of different aspects of theater. We don't have the Tony Awards. We didn't even try to get the Tony Awards. Everybody knows what the Tony Awards are. I think it's more important for us to understand the different worlds of the different awards. We have Bonnie Comley with us, who is president of the board president of the board of the Drama League. And I'm going to guess there's a couple people in the room who don't know what the Drama League is, and we're going to talk about that. We have Lauren Yarger and David Gordon, who are both part of the Outer Critics Circle, and also have some knowledge about the Drama Desk Awards, which I'd like to, touch on a little bit as well today. And then we have the newcomer. We have Aimee Todoroff, who's not really a newcomer, but she is to this particular award. You've taken over the Innovative Theater Awards, and you branded it as the Independent Theater Awards, right? So let's start with those, because those are the awards that are probably most of us in the room can aspire to these. So Aimee, you want to introduce yourself and say hi? You know what? I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves because I'm talking too much. Bonnie, introduce yourself quickly, and then Lauren and David, and then we'll move to Aimee.
Hi, good evening. I'm Bonnie Comley. As Bob said, I am the president of the board of the Drama League. I'm in my second year of a 4-year term. And I guess I'll go into the Drama League when we go into that. So that's just a little bit about me, and that's my give back position. And my day job is as the founder of Broadway HD, which is a streaming service.
Which we all should be subscribing to. Everybody in the room, if you're not a subscriber to Broadway HD, we're going to talk about that. We got to do something about that. Lauren in Connecticut, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a playwright and a theater reviewer in Connecticut and New York, and still with the Circle, obviously. I'm a producer with Gracewell Productions. Connecticut, I have 2 reading series at 2 theaters.
Oh, well, we're having internet problems with
the League of Women.
Okay, that was the you're part of the League of Professional Theater Women. It's in and out, Lauren. I'm sorry.
I'm the co-founder of the chapter. I'm sorry,
okay.
I don't know what to do about it.
I know. Try doing it without your video, and maybe the audio will come through better. And I'm going to move to David. David, you're the person that I didn't know before, so say hi. And
I try to be mysterious. No, I'm
the
David.
The mysterious David Gordon is with us today. Don't tell anyone.
I'm David Gordon. I am president of the Outer Critics Circle, which is a theater awards organization and a grouping of critics from across the country and internet sphere. And I'm also editor-in-chief of Theatermania.com.
That's a big job too.
It's and I have a 15-month-old daughter, so it's
so you're busy.
Sleep and no sleep and no rest for the weary.
So it's a virtual miracle that you found time to be with us today. So thank you so much.
Yes, my wife is currently putting her to bed, so it's I'm in our bedroom with the cats on top of me with a screaming baby 2 doors down.
Well, Zoom has gotten really good with their sound gateway, and we can't hear any of the screaming. It's much. Remember 3 years ago, we would have heard everything.
Oh, I know. Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness. Thank you, Zoom, for growing and getting better. So, Aimee, I'm going to bring you up now, and we're gonna talk a little bit about independent theater, the League of Independent Theaters, and also. Give us a little bit of how we went from Innovative Theater Awards to the Independent Theater Awards.
Of course. Hi, everyone. It's good to be back with you. My name is Aimee Todoroff, she, her. I'm the managing director of the League of Independent Theater. I'm also a freelance director and producer of short films through my independent theater company, which has been talk about one of those blessings of the pandemic. We always produced live theater, and we started doing short films and have won a few awards. So that's exciting. The League of Independent Theater is an advocacy organization that was founded to really further the influence of independent theater and independent theater artists, and to make our voices heard in the political realm. We are a business league, so we support the business of independent theater. Around the same time that the league was formed, the New York Innovative Theater Awards were founded by Shay Gines, Nick McCosey, and Jason Bokut. And they formed it with the goal of honoring and recognizing the contributions of the independent theater maker in New York, and also to create a community hub, much like this one, a place where people could gather and get to know each other and get to know the work that other independent theater artists are creating. One of the things that was always really exciting about the New York Innovative Theater Awards, as it was known originally, was that it really was for, by, and about the community of independent theater makers. And in order to be even eligible for an award, you had to participate in the process of nominating and submitting other people for this award. So it really was this sort of democratically, small d democratic, inspired organization that was really truly all about community. 2020 hit a lot of organizations really hard. The NYIT Awards is one of those. Through a series of events that included a really malicious hack on their website, just not being able to gather in person, the NYIT Awards shrunk down in 2021 to only give out honorary awards as opposed to the production awards. And around that same time, the league was approached asking if we could take over the operations. We felt that there's no better way to promote the needs and perspective of the independent theater maker than by continuing these awards. So it was a no-brainer. But we are in the process of rebuilding as we then rebranded the awards from New York Innovative Theater Awards to New York Independent Theater Awards. And we are having another honorary award ceremony June 26th at the Brooklyn Art House. It's a brand new venue in Brooklyn that we're really excited to introduce the community to.
So let's clarify this. Let's clarify in terms of who is eligible. You talked about independent. The whole concept of indie theater is, as I go back historically, having been part of some of this, the whole idea was rebranding the theater so that people could understand that there's something other than Broadway and something other than off-Broadway. And off-Broadway was a term that was not very well embraced by a lot of people in the community. So indie theater became, I know, like John Chatterton and Martin Denton and all started trying to put through a movement so that we could actually start branding a certain aspect of theater as being independent theater. Can you define that for us? Can you tell the people in the room what it is so they know if they're a part of it?
Of course, yeah. The loose definition is theaters or theater makers that operate in venues of 99 seats or less or non-traditional venues. And that is partly because there's already such clear definitions of Broadway and off-Broadway. And some people in our community still really like the term off-Broadway, and we welcome that. Independent sort of encapsulates the idea that we're not defining the work we do in relationship to what anyone else is doing, because what we're doing is our own thing. So call it off-Broadway if you want, call it independent theater if you want, just you're all welcome.
Okay, so that was the definition that we were trying to get away from like 20 years ago, which was the off-Broadway designation. It was not only just off-Broadway, but it was off-Broadway. And independent theater is, I think, is a much clearer term, and it also has a resonance because people know independent film, and so I think that there's a sort of a relationship there that people can understand. The next step, although I'm gonna move our way up to the outer critic circle, but the next step I think might be Broadway League. Bonnie, can you explain to everybody what the Broadway League is and why they would benefit by being part of it?
Well, I'm also a member of the Broadway League, but I'm the president of the Drama League.
Drama League. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Well, you started off by saying there's definitely some confusion. So actually, if I could go there, right there.
Yeah.
the Drama League and the Broadway League. So the Broadway League is the trade association for the Broadway theater owners, presenters, producers, general managers, and affiliate companies. And those are all put together into this trade association to really the main focus of that when they came together, I think it was close to 80 years ago now, was really to labor negotiations was a lot of it, and promoting Broadway as a brand itself. So it's huge, it's commercial, it's the 41 Broadway theaters in New York City and about 200 touring theaters around the country that those Broadway shows come out of in New York City and then tour. So that is the Broadway League, and I am a member and been a voter there. And then the Drama League is a service organization that is really it's 100 plus year old organization. That's a service organization that over our 100 plus years, we've had to I mean, it's always there for theater makers and the audiences that they serve, but it's those audiences and the theater makers and the audiences they serve has changed over the years. So our main focus right now is, and what we're known for, is a mentoring organization for early career stage directors. That is our main initiative that we fundraise for, which is the Directors Project. And we just held our nominations the other day on Tuesday. Oh, so sorry. Of course, I'm the one with the phone goes off right then. I'm so sorry. So it's with the Drama League, and anyone can become a member of the Drama League. It is a membership organization that is a tiered pricing, and at the I think it starts at $125 a year. And it goes up, and at the $250 a year level, you get to vote on the Drama League Awards. So that's why you would want to be a member, is if you wanted to vote. If you want to just go to some of the programs that we have, the seminars that we have, the podcasts that we have, you don't have to be a member, but you get the emails and the early access to those.
So tell me, why awards? What made the Drama League decide to go into the awards arena? And tell us a little bit about the awards.
Okay, well, as I said, the Drama League was founded in 1911. The awards started in 1935. So we are actually the oldest theatrical awards in the United States. And the purpose of the awards when they first started, and really, what they are for today, was to, again, that, theater makers and the audience they serve, was really to foster a real appreciation for the craft of acting. Because prior to that, it was one of those things that there weren't awards, there weren't always reviews for things. And it was, acting as a craft was always something that was really the, like the lower part of society. Like if you were an actor, and if you look back in time, that was like the dregs of society. So I think as we sort of got into the thinking that this is actually a talent and a craft that needs to be honed. And that's what the purpose of the awards was, to say, look at the difference between, these people that are on this stage. So the first one was really for actors, because that's what's the visible thing. I think that's what most people are excited about in any awards, whether it's the Academy Awards or the Golden Globes. It's the who's on stage, who do we see, because those are the ones we're more familiar with than the playwrights or the writers of anything or the directors of anything, as prolific as those other career professionals might be. It's always sort of the actors, and that's what the Drama League started, was as a for distinguished performance. So that's been since 1935.
So today you give, because I was at your nomination brunch the other day. You now give awards for acting and also for directing, and remind me.
So we have the oldest one, which is the Distinguished Performance Award, which from its very beginning was a genderless award. So in 1935, it was awarded to Catherine Cornell for her performance of Juliet. So the first one actually went to a woman. And it was genderless. It was whoever that community, the Drama League community, felt was the best, the distinguished performance of that season. And so it's, from there it went in, and we've layered on over the years different other different awards. So it's distinguished production of a play, distinguished production of a musical, and distinguished revival of a play, distinguished revival of a revival of a musical, and then added in our awards for directing. And we recently, since the pandemic, created an award called the Gratitude Award, which is really for super patrons of the arts, that they kind of stood up even when theater wasn't even happening, but they have a long-term support of theater. And so we actually, the first one was Ira Smith, and then last year was Willett Klausner, and this year it's Darren Odiode. And these three people have just been patrons of the arts for many years, and just sort of found the reason to support the Drama League throughout the pandemic. And also in the pandemic, we actually did the first virtual awards because we felt that nobody was doing anything. So in 2021, in our awards, when there really wasn't awards for physical productions, we awarded what we said. We wanted to celebrate what we could do. We wanted to celebrate the work that could be done. And I think that, when listening to other people here, where they've actually incorporated video into either their business model or their organizational structure, it's just, as the founder of Broadway HD, which is all about expanding the fan base through the digital stage piece. I have been for years. I mean, Broadway HD is an 8-year-old, business, and we started doing captures before that. So it really is how you expand the fan base, is with digital. So to hear everybody else, like weighing in on how now that is acceptable, whereas for many years I heard, well, that's not theater, that's TV, and I think that the lines are blurred now. But yeah, so
if it's filmed, the outcry is always, if it's filmed, how can it be theater? And we're going to talk about that and other philosophical issues. I'm not going to shy away from them. We're going to go into them, but I want to take the next step to David and Lauren. Lauren, let's hear how you're doing with your sound now. Lauren? Oh, maybe
Here I
she's not.
am. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Okay,
good.
so do you mind, David and Lauren, you both have some background with the Drama Desk. Before we move to Outer Critics Circle, can we just talk a little bit about the Drama Desk?
I have no Drama Desk background besides having worked for Theatermania in the years where they produced the awards, but I can't really.
Okay, so with Lauren, you have a little bit of background. If we don't know a lot about the Drama Desk, it's okay. The only reason I want to do a call out to the Drama Desk is because one of the members of our producer development class, Jonathan Hogue, got 3 Drama Desk nominations for his show Stranger Sings, and so we couldn't be more excited. Lauren, do you have any information you can share about Drama Desk? If not, we can just move to Outer Critics.
Well, I mean, I don't have anything to share about the more recent times. Drama Desk, I was on the board for a while, and then when they had Theatermania produce the awards, I was on the board then. So I mean, I can speak generally about that, and that the Drama Desk, they, as far as I know, still are, they sort of farm out their awards to an independent outside producer. So the Drama Desk voters vote on the awards, and the nominators nominate the awards that are voted on, but somebody else produces the awards. So there's a whole brand outside of the Drama Desk that gets developed by somebody else. I know that both the Drama Desk and Outer Critics since the pandemic have sort of changed the structure of the awards. Drama Desk used to be, before Theatermania took it over, they used to be in a high school. It was just an awards ceremony. And then Theatermania came in and made it into a more of a gala kind of event. They had some lovely receptions that were involved. And all through the years, the Drama Desk has had several different components to their awards. They would have a nominees reception. I honestly don't know if they still do it, but they did when I was there. And the nominees would come and receive a certificate with their nomination on it. So it was just a big deal even to be nominated. And then the awards were separate from that. Last year, we always had the Outer Critics Circle Awards were at Sardi's. It was a dinner. And in the last 2 years, we went to the Bruno Auditorium at the Lincoln Center Performing Arts Library. And the Drama Desk moved to Sardi's. I'm not sure what they do there because I haven't been to that one. I don't think it's a dinner, but the location has just changed there. So, yeah, definitely, as you mentioned before, things changed since the pandemic. So
the other thing I want to clarify about the Drama Desk, with your help, to make sure that I'm saying this right, they're an award that from the start, I think they always combined Broadway, off-Broadway, and I think even independent theater in their eligibility.
Yes, they Broadway too, yeah.
Okay, there goes the video, the audio this time. Lauren, I'm so sorry about your Wi-Fi.
I know, I'm sorry, I can't control the Wi-Fi here.
I know. David.
But yes, they do off-Broadway and off-Broadway Drama Desk.
And also
well.
they have a lot of voters. I mean, a lot of people are Drama Desk voters, as I recall. But let's just move to we won't focus on Drama Desk because we don't have enough information here for sure. So David, let's talk about the Outer Critics Circle and what's different about that award and when did that happen, and little history, a little now, a little then.
The history of the organization is one of my favorite things about it, and that it was created by a group of disgruntled non-New York theater critics in response to the formation of the New York Drama Critics Circle, which was a group of critics for New York newspapers who wouldn't let in lesser critics, out-of-state critics. So this group of theater critics that, didn't write for the New York Times or whatever, got together and formed the Outer Critics Circle. And that was in 1950. So this is technically its 73rd year. We're calling it our 72nd because we didn't do anything in 2021. And over the years, especially since I took over, the meaning of the word outer changed, mostly because theater criticism isn't a thing in even New York publications anymore, let alone publications across the country. So now we include, websites like Theatermania, blogs, podcasts, anything that sort of reviews theater or covers theater regularly. And it is a membership organization. You can apply to be a member. We in the summer, and then and then the real privilege is you get to see the shows and vote on them for our annual awards, which we are in the throes of now.
So a couple things. First of all, your awards are not just for Broadway either, are they?
We do Broadway and off-Broadway. Our definition of off-Broadway is tenuous, and one of the things I'm working on now is defining what it really is, because do we count off-Broadway as, independent theater? Do we count off-Broadway as Brooklyn Academy of Music? Do we count off-Broadway as, 59 East 59 Ensemble Studio Theater, or is it, Manhattan Theater Club, MCC Round, like that sort of thing? Our scope is much narrower than something like the Drama Desk, which will cover a lot of the smaller stuff. Ours never really has, and we don't really have the infrastructure to do so. So whereas they see about 200 shows a year, we see about 120, 150. I think this year we topped out, my math was 147 shows.
Oh, okay.
Between Broadway and off-Broadway, which is, when you think about it, sounds like a negligible difference, but when you look at the volume of shows that are happening at places like the Brick or whatever, it is a real difference between what we do and what something like the Drama Desk does.
So historically, the Tonys have been the Broadway Awards, and the Drama
Yeah.
Critics, I think, also the Drama Critics Circle also basically focuses on Broadway, and that's the commercial business. That's the commercial side of the entire theater industry, to a large extent. What do you think? What do you see as the advantages and the disadvantages? All of you, all three of you, well, four of you, Lauren as well, of combining off Broadway and Broadway in terms of the nominations, and how often do off Broadway and smaller shows fare well in competition with the big Broadway shows?
That's something. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, David.
No, I was going to say that's something we discuss frequently, because a lot of our categories are nebulous in that when we do design stuff, it's outstanding scenic design of a play or musical, Broadway or off Broadway, outstanding lighting design, play or off Broadway, Broadway or off Broadway, play or musical. So we see all of these shows, and a show at a place like Soho Rep is going to have a very different budget than a musical like New York, New York, or a play like Life of Pi. So it is important to us that we always strike a good balance in honoring a show done on a shoestring budget that has a set that's amazing for different reasons than one of the big Broadway things. And no matter what we do to try to get those shows recognized, it's always the big Broadway stuff that's going to win. And that's something that's similar with the Drama Desk, because it's more visible, but it's also, people vote with their eyes and see the glitz and glamour without really thinking of, this show isn't nearly as glitzy, but the set is even cooler because it's made of, it's on a much smaller budget. And I got my career started at writing for Martin Denton at NewYorkTheater.com. So I value that component just as highly as I do something that was done on a $10 million budget. I will say,
but it's hard. It's basically, in terms of reality, it's a difficult thing. But what I'm hearing that I like is the fact that you feel, and I'm sure Bonnie would say the same thing, that just the acknowledgement is a boost for some people. Just the fact that they're mentioned in the same list as Camelot and Some Like It Hot and whatever else rhymes with "ot." So let me ask you for a second, Aimee. I want to pull it away from this, and we're going to come back to this though. The Innovative Theater, which is now the Independent Theater Awards, how are they voted on? I don't think you had a chance to really talk about that.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking about how different the model that the NYIT Awards has from the other awards. And when you think about the independent theater community at their sort of peak capacity, the NYIT Awards, we're looking at over 1,000 shows per year. But that's because we don't have one small pool of voters. We have a community of voters, and part of the model is that when you make your show eligible, when you put in your name to be please consider my show, you commit to also participating in that judging process where you go and you see at least 3 other shows. Now, there is also a pool of judges so that we can absolutely guarantee that every show is going to be seen by a critical mass of people to make an informed decision. But in order to participate, you must also give back to your community. So we're seeing thousands of shows represented. Now we are in sort of a strange transitional place, and last year we did honorary awards. This year we're also going to do honorary awards where the community nominates 6 people well, there's 6 categories and 6 people end up getting those awards. And for the next few years, we are going to have to keep it at that level, simply because the infrastructure needs to be rebuilt. When the New York Innovative Theater Foundation shut down, they also lost their website structure. So if there's anyone out there listening who knows how to build out a voting system, we would definitely welcome your expertise. Happy to hear from you. But that's probably going to take us a few years to build that out. We're looking at 2024 at the earliest to get back to the production awards, like outstanding performer.
That's not great news for the people in the room, clearly, but
No.
but everybody should know that once you're back up and running, basically we all have the opportunity of being considered for the it's still going to be the IT awards.
Yes,
that hasn't changed. We still have the opportunity of being considered for them. I was when I was producing a show and I wanted my show to be considered, I saw 5 or 6 shows.
Yeah.
And voted on them. So basically, it's a very it's a populist kind of award. We're people should know not to call me.
I also just got a phone call that thankfully I was able to ignore while we were talking. It's the time.
Okay. I didn't mute myself in time, so that's another thing I have to edit in this thing. So it's like I was starting to say, it's populist. It's really an award of the people, of the community, as you said earlier. I think the other awards we're talking about today are aspirational for many of us, and well, they should be. And none of us should actually feel like, oh my God, we'll never be able to be nominated for a Drama League or an Outer Critics Circle award or Drama Desk award. We stick at it, we do it, and hopefully we get recognized. So, which goes to really the heart of why I put this together. The need for recognition, the need for people to have some reason to keep doing what they're doing, because a lot of time it ain't ticket sales. So it's good to know that people that are peers appreciate what we're doing. Bonnie, the Drama League, the voters for the Drama League, who are they? Who comprises that body of people? Are they fellow artists? Are they?
It really is mostly theater makers. As I said, it's an organization that anyone can join. So the different tiers of membership level are what allow you to vote or not. But to talk a little bit about other awards and being more inclusive of the different levels of theater. And I say levels of theater because it's all like the base of all of it is in the storytelling. But I think David had mentioned, it's hard to look at something that's an, independent theater production or an off Broadway production, whatever you want to call it, and pair that up against the production levels of a union Broadway show. But I think that the American Theater Wing has recognized that. So the Drama League is inclusive of the Broadway, off-Broadway, and off-Broadway theater in New York City. And the American Theater Wing, which is the ones that are the founders of the Tony Awards, they present the Tony Awards with the Broadway League, but it's actually, they started with the American Theater Wing. And the American Theater Wing has now taken over the Obie Awards, which is the off-Broadway awards. So they felt the need to recognize the theater that's being made in New York City that isn't in those 41 Broadway theaters. So I think that's important to understand that, even on the commercial side of stuff, that people are getting that recognition. And I think that with all of this, what we were talking about, like, what's the importance of these awards? They're, maybe they're aspirational, but what's the point in all of it for the theater makers that are in the room? And when I speak to people that want to make theater, whether they're playwrights or they're actors or they're composers, it's really, it's never about one thing. I see it's about a body of work, and how do you get all of your pieces into your your toolkit of all the different things that you need. And I think for me, you know, those playwrights, directors, and composers, it's really about productions, getting some sort of production done. So whether that's an off Broadway or an independent theater production in a, you know, in a 45-seat theater, that's part of it. And that sometimes, I mean, the first part is actually getting a script, right? Like, you know, so it's like getting the script, but once you get it, it's getting a production and then getting reviews if you can. So whether those are bloggers or the New York Times, you're lucky enough to score, you know, from that. The next thing is actually to get published. And it's never, I don't want to say it's never been easier, but in a sense, it's never been easier with online publishing. That there's much more of an opportunity for other shows that would not have gotten those like 3 big, you know, Dramatist Play Service and, you know, Concord Theatricals and MTI aren't going to come in and necessarily license these off Broadway shows, but you can find publishers for these, you know, 1-acts and shorter plays that you can actually find things online. And then the other piece is the awards. So when you get your play is done, you get a production of it, you get some reviews, and then you can actually start submitting for smaller awards. And I think that all of those things together are what bring recognition to either a theater maker. So whether that's an actor, the director, or the playwright, a composer. So those are the things that you kind of, if you can get all those things and sort of, you know, and then develop, as long as the show, the comments that keep coming in, and the more that you develop this show, because let's face it, for a Broadway show, quite often 7 years in development is pretty average.
Oh yeah. You know,
which sounds great.
You brought up the Obie, so Michael Feingold is one of my best friends, and I don't think I can talk for him, but I know enough about them that I can say that the Obies were created because there were no awards at the time. There were no awards for off Broadway, and Michael's philosophy, and I guess his co-founders, but I think a lot of it was Michael, was that he didn't want to give an award for the best anything. So there's never categories. These are basically they look at the community, they look at the theater season, and they find things that they just want to honor. So they give awards to things. There's no competition. There's no lineup of best plays and we're going to choose one. There's no lineup of best performances and we're going to choose one. Michael leading the way, I would think, according to Michael, would basically find the outstanding moments in a season and try to get those acknowledged. So that's also a very different. So there's very different personalities to the different awards, very different personalities. And I think that's healthy, and I think that's good. The other thing I just wanted to say in response to what you were saying is that, in a sense, the nominations, in order for us to really embrace the concept of awards, and there are people that don't. There's people that don't like the idea of it. But for us to embrace, I think we just have to really just look at the idea that the nomination is the acknowledgement. If you really get down to it, I mean, how many of us look at a list of the 5 plays that are nominated or the 5 performances and can say definitively, oh, that was the best one? It's all a question of taste. It's all a question of what happens to strike the people that are voting on it. There's no object. Well, let me put it as a question, David, Outer Critics Circle. I mean, you represent an organization of critics, of people that present themselves as people who have opinions worth listening to. Did we just lose Bonnie?
Yes.
We just lost Bonnie. Oh no.
She'll probably be back.
Oh, there she is.
Sorry, somebody's asking me a question. Sorry, I'm not alone here in Vermont.
Oh, okay. So David, what is your personal philosophy? I know that you're part of the Outer Critics Circle. If something could be different, would you want it to be different, or is basically the way the awards are set up and how they're run now simply a way of doing it without getting into confusions about getting into the weeds of it.
Well, I was going to say it's so interesting because, I look at our membership roster and I look at the Drama Desk membership roster, and there's a lot of crossover. And, I don't say this in an ageist way, but it's a lot of older people who, have been writing for a really long time, and, their publications have vanished and they're doing blogs now or whatever. And one of the things that we're going through, which I'm sure a lot of, theaters in New York City are going through, is that one day our membership is just going to not be there anymore. One of the things that most surprised me coming out of COVID was that so many people are returning or have returned. We retained 99% of our membership, which I didn't expect to happen, which has been a real boon for us. And it's nice to see such robust numbers. But one of the things that I think about a lot is, what can I do to change, how can I change the things? And, we're a group of critics. So the job that I've made myself in the 5 years that I've been president is to find new blood for the organization, people who are passionate about theater, who, are writing good stuff for sites that don't get, for sites that aren't the New York Times or, for instance, but also are looking to gain a foothold in the industry, freelancers, for example. We're a group of journalists, and it's hard to get a foot in the door in this industry in any angle. And it's just as hard to get a job as a theater journalist, which is a whole nother story that I won't burden anybody here with. So I'm trying to think of new ways to bring this organization that has followed the same strictures for the 70 or whatever years that it's been open. And just trying to keep it alive and vibrant to be able to honor as much of the theater scene as we can. The big change we made this year, and it was hotly debated, it is still being hotly debated, is we removed gender from our acting categories. So it's no longer best actor, best actress. It's best performer in a Broadway show, best performer in an off-Broadway show. We made very clear to separate Broadway and off-Broadway and acting categories for the first time, because we realized that if we're removing the number of categories, then people are going to get disenfranchised, and it's off-Broadway that will automatically get disenfranchised, just for reasons that I said before. So now we have 4 additional acting categories just going to off-Broadway shows, which we never had before, which makes me really happy. So our number of nominees stayed exactly the same, but we've widened the scope a bit to try to give people more love.
No, I have a question. I have a question about that. Do we feel that the not having gender separations in the categories, is that a statement about gender, or is that a statement about the non-binary world that we're entering right now?
I think for us, it's a statement of recognizing that the world has changed and things aren't as black and white as best actor and best actress anymore. And it is not my job to go up to, it is not only not my job, it is not right or fair to go up to someone who doesn't identify as male or female and say, pick which category you want to be in. That's something that other awards are doing still, and I think they are on the road to change also. But for me and many people on my board, and not everybody on my board, it is definitely a generational thing, which is what the world is seeing too. I can't stomach the idea of going up to someone and saying, okay, you identify as non-binary. Would you prefer we call you actor or actress? Like, that's not cool for me.
So I mean, we are acknowledging that it's about the non-binary world we're now in. I mean,
Well,
we've always been in now in the non-binary world we're acknowledging.
It is the world has changed since the pandemic, and if we don't change, how can we call ourselves people that recognize the full artistry of the industry?
Now, have you announced your nominations?
Yes, we did. We deliberated on Monday, and then we announced them on Wednesday.
And this is to both of you, to the best of your knowledge in your acting categories, and this is a sensitive question, are there non-binary performances that you're acknowledging this year?
There are, yes.
Okay. I was curious about that. And when you have your voters vote, Bonnie, you told me that they're going to be able to vote for 2 in each category. Is that correct?
For well, for the
Acting
play,
award for the acting awards.
acting has always been genderless, which, when you sort of look at it, I think from the beginning, so was composing or playwriting. It wasn't like
Well,
best female playwright or best
right, and
writer. You know what I mean? So that we actually went that way with acting categories, in a way seems forced, I guess. If originally it was just who's the best distinguished performance of the season, and then we decided, well, we need to split, we need that to be binary, and so I think that's, it's never been binary. For the Drama League, it's always been genderless. So I think that when we announce all of our distinguished performances, when we announced them on Tuesday, it was just a list. Here's all the distinguished performances that will be honored on May 19th.
and one of the things we've always said is you don't do best male lighting designer, best female projection designer.
Exactly.
So why should we, and when we were looking at it, we said, why should we do best male performer, best female performer? Acting is the same across the whole spectrum.
But you do have twice as many nominees in each category than you would have if it were gendered.
We don't. That's the drama desk, and that's one of the sticking points that we had debated, even in the room while we were doing the nominations. I was very strict about trying to keep it to 5 because I didn't want to make it sort of a wider scope, and that's just sort of, me looking at something like the Oscars and saying, okay, there are, they nominate 10 movies for best picture, but they also keep their acting categories to 5, and I wanted to see as a thought experiment if we could do it, and we ended up being able to do it. And I know for a fact that if we were to not expand the categories to include off-Broadway, then a lot of those great performances would have been left out. So it was our way of saying, okay, we're going to keep this to the same number that we always have, but we're going to try to include as many people as we can in a way that we haven't before, even though we know we're eliminating something.
Bonnie, excuse me, Bonnie, Drama League has combined the both genders, which is what you said you've always done, and also it's Broadway and off-Broadway.
Broadway, off-Broadway, and off, and it
And
doesn't
off.
differentiate between plays or musicals or comedy or drama, so sort of just one. And when we do our awards, we have from 50 to about 90 different actors sitting on a dais that we celebrate at a luncheon, and there's only one of those performances that's picked. So it's kind of a gigantic pool that we place in front of the community, and they just pick one, which seems like, oh, if you had more categories for play or musical or off-Broadway and Broadway or off, then you would have more awards. But I think it's just, again, that sort of celebration of like all these amazing performances in one season, and then just one that this particular community thought stood out. So
I love seeing who wins the Drama League award, the performance award every year, because it's always so clear to me who I would vote for, and I like seeing on a personal level, would it line up with who I would pick?
How often does it?
3/4 of the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm really enjoying about this conversation, I'm sorry to cut you off, David, is how different each of these awards are and how they serve a different purpose. And there's the commonality between recognition and celebrating the community and making connections, but they all are so unique, and I wouldn't replace any single one of them. I think there's room for all of us to celebrate.
David.
I'm also keenly
Can you
aware.
hear me?
Yes.
Oh, Lauren?
Lauren, go. Lauren, all you.
I was just going to chime in that traditionally the Outer Critics Circle Awards is a dinner awards ceremony when it was at Sardi's, and our winners are announced before the ceremony. So it's a little different atmosphere. They don't come wondering if they're going to win. They don't not show up because they're afraid they're not going to win, things like that. Our awards are like Aimee was just saying, very unique in that they all are winners. The people who show up at our awards have already won in their category. And it's just, it's been an intimate time with our members and the people who join us for the evening to be able to just really have a lovely sit down dinner or a time of gathering with winners, you know, right from the beginning. So it is very different that way.
And if I'm not mistaken, you actually produced the awards show, don't you, Lauren?
Yes.
Lauren is
Yes, I do.
Lauren is one of the greatest producers I've ever worked with. And like, if there was a dictionary definition of the word on the ball, it would be Lauren Yarger's picture next to it. I cannot speak more highly of Lauren Yarger and everything that she does for us.
So what goes into it, Lauren? Because a lot of the people in the room are writers, but a lot of them are also producers, and some of them are both. So producing a awards show, what is that like?
Well, it's like any other event. I mean, it's you know, a lot of logistics. It's working with a great team of people, especially David, you know, figuring out what that awards ceremony is going to look like. But then it's really making sure that everybody gets there, they get through to their seats, they get through the step and repeat line, they have seats, you know, that some years in the past, some organizations have had award shows that, you know, people didn't have a place to sit and people didn't have food to eat, things like that. So it's all that, putting it all together and making it the best show and best experience for everybody there.
How many weeks or months of prep do you go through in order to make this happen?
Well, we plan it, you know, pretty much starting somewhere in the fall as to, you know, the logistics of where it's going to be and what it's going to look like and that kind of thing. But we spend more time in these last couple of months beforehand, really having all the details come together.
Bonnie,
Yeah, I was just ordering more certificate holders, Lauren, because I did my count today and realized that I'm half dozen short, and I'm like, oh God, I didn't realize that we're less than a month out from it.
Good thinking.
Yeah. Bonnie, are you going to be involved at all in the producing of the Drama League event?
I am, but more in, you know, trying to sell the tables, you know, so again, it's like the marketing of it, the, you know, the event itself, it's pretty, the structure has been there for years. It's keeping it, you know, when you have 100, you know, 75 people to 100 people on a dais, is keeping it within a time period, because we do a luncheon, you know, so we've sort of had at times had a reputation of being an endless luncheon. But you know, when I became vice president 4 years ago, I said, you know, you gotta cut this, like it's gotta be chopped down. People have to go back to work, and then some of these people, they have a performance tonight. So so it's about you know, something that's meaningful for the people that are in the room, because we have, with 100 people, you know, 75 to 100 people on a dais, and then you have another 400 to 500 in the room. You know, at times we've had 750 people in the ballroom when we've done it. So it's a lot of, you know, lunches to get out. It's a lot of people.
That wouldn't be Sardi's.
Yeah, no, it's not at SAR. We've done it at the, this year, you know, for the second time, we're going to be at the Ziegfeld Ballroom. So we're going to have about 500 people again, which is what we had last year. So it's a big event, and it's really one of the first awards of the season. So it's really celebratory, and everybody just, you know, you're just sort of like getting out there, and it is, you know, in a sense, it's that predictor or indicator for how the rest of the season is going to go, you know, and how those other awards, you know, are going to go. So it's sort of, okay, that was not a good sign for my show, you know, kind of a thing, or my, you know, my performer, whatever it is. So, but as far as like the actually of producing it, a lot of it is, it's, you know, it's like a wedding event, you know, with a run of show.
There you go. Now you're there. Now you're there. That's it.
With ours, we don't have any performance, unlike the Tony Awards, unlike the Obie Awards, unlike some of the others that they actually have performances. We don't have performances. It's the dais and everyone gets a chance to speak. So those off Broadway people get to speak, as well as the people that are on Broadway. So last year we had Hugh Jackman, Billy Crystal and Sutton Foster all sitting on this, same tables with people that are in off Broadway shows that kind of sometimes just sort of gaga at them. It's like, oh, wow, I can't, that ends up being their moment, is that they just kind of gush over, the people that are on the dais with them. It's like, I can't believe I'm sitting here with Sutton Foster or Hugh Jackman, so it's kind of, it just feels very, it's just fun. It's fun, it's celebratory, and it's a great kickoff to the rest of the award season. So
I'm going to open up to the room, because I know that you have to leave in a couple minutes, Bonnie. If there are any questions, and Owen, are there any questions that are already? I see there's one.
Yeah, there's one. I don't see any more, but here's one from John Ewing. Question for Aimee. Is your mission limited to shorts? I feel that theater is underrepresented in film and TV spaces, and I would love to see you all extend into those areas as well.
Shorts.
The NYIT Awards are open to theatrical productions of any length. So one-act plays are included, and full-length musicals, non-musicals. I'm wondering if maybe that question came from the fact that I personally produce short films, because the term shorts is usually associated with film, but that is not part of what our award ceremony does. We will in the future be including digital performance as a category. So that is something to look forward to. And again, we also will not disclude based on length. But it is a good question to bring up. Should we potentially expand to have long form digital and short form digital?
Well, I'm one of those people who feels like there are different things that make certain forms great. And I think that what goes into a great short piece is different from what goes into a great longer piece. I also think that there are different kinds of ways that we judge a Broadway show versus how we judge an off-Broadway show or a showcase or an off-Broadway show. So if I were one of your voters, I wouldn't know what to do. I just wouldn't know what to do. David and Bonnie, both of you, I mean, combining all of those into one category would overwhelm me as a voter. But I gather you have voters that just do it. By the way, one of the few examples that I read about in the Drama Desk Awards where something that was not a Broadway show managed to get an award was Hamilton when it was off Broadway. That did win their award. But for the most part, almost all the Broadway shows tend to overshadow the smaller, the less complicated pieces, the less expensive pieces.
And it's true. I mean, who is saying that?
Somebody.
I was going to say, David, that at least for the Drama Desk, and I think for the Outer Critics, many of our voters see more of the Broadway shows. The nominators see 150 shows or 200 shows, but the voters don't see all of them, so they are unable to vote for the ones they haven't seen.
The other thing, one of the things that I'm keenly aware of, and I really just want to say it, is, I'm aware of something like the Outer Critics Circle Awards place as a marketing tool for both Broadway shows and off-Broadway shows. And, something from my organization for Some Like It Hot is going to mean a very different thing than, a show at the Brick, for instance, because, an Outer Critics Circle Award, and I'm using the Brick as an example, even though we don't necessarily cover them, but an award like ours or a Drama Desk Award for something like the Brick is going to be used on grant applications. It's going to be used to entice artists to come work at their space. And so I've always looked at it as there's more of an artistic purpose for these awards for the smaller shows. Whereas for the bigger shows, it's all about come see, the musical that won this year's Tony, Drama Desk, and Outer Critics Circle and Drama League Award for Best New Musical. And so that always crosses my mind when we're doing these things too, because I want to make sure that we take care of the wide swath of theater that New York has to offer. And that's really important to me.
Yeah, David, I really wanted to piggyback on what you said, because I feel like we did sort of quickly pass over the question of what are the tangible benefits, like what is the why of
Yeah.
why these awards are important. And I think one of them for sure for our members who are heavily reliant upon grants for even just that $500 $5,000 DCLA grant. That's the difference between an entire show getting produced versus not produced in a season. And having some sort of stamp of recognition of excellence, it goes a long way on those grant applications. It goes a long way towards, we keep talking about connection, but part of connection is knowing who else's work is out there. We often work in isolation because we have our head down working on a project. I personally have hired people because I was brought into awareness of their work through the NYIT Awards or the other awards. So it's valuable for careers beyond the general good feelings of recognition. And it's also incredibly valuable for data, because if you can get that information, at least for our members, of this is how many people were eligible for the award who were nominated. This is what their budgets were. This is how many actors were working in the independent sector last year. That's incredibly valuable data for, especially for a small community like ours, but also for the off-Broadway and the Broadway community to be able to get a full picture of who is working and what and how. And that can really be done through these awards.
That's actually the most interesting part for me as I put together our nominations booklet this year, which is literally just a name of everybody involved with all of the shows we see broken up by category.
Yeah.
And it is a simple, unscientific, and then we just go down the list, and it's a simple, unscientific system. And one of the things that I always love is seeing which designers worked the most each year.
Mhm.
And I forget who this year is. These things go in one ear and out the other when you're putting in together so much data at that time. But I like doing a deep dive when all is said and done and just seeing who, and because all of designers are more freelance than, well, I mean, all designers are freelance, I guess.
Yeah.
But I love seeing like who worked the most, whose work. I mean, most interesting for me is whose work was so different from their other projects this year. And like, would I recognize, like, does this person have a particular design aesthetic that you could see transferred through all of the projects that they did? Or are they the kind of person that no matter what they're working on, all of their stuff looks different? And that's just me as an audience member. That's the sort of thing that I dig looking into.
And the advantage of the honorary awards that some of you have talked about is that the fact that you can actually give an award for somebody's body of work.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's what a lot of the OB awards are basically for a body of work. Not a lot. I mean, some of them are. They're still mostly for individual performances and individual productions that have happened during the season. Lauren, do you want to try turning your camera on so that we can actually have a picture with you, and I can see my audience out there. There you go. There you are. So I want to thank you all. I know that that Bonnie has to leave. I don't see any questions from the room, guys. If you have questions, I'm probably going to do my final words right now, and then you can ask the questions after I say them. But again, Aimee, always good to have you. You're part of the family at this point. You know that. David, hopefully you'll be a part of the family too at some point. Good to meet you.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Bonnie, I love you so much. You are so good to TRU, and I'm so honored to have you be a part of what we do. And Lauren, it's so good to have you on. And you do, I think you were referred to as the best producer in the business today. So that says a lot. So thank you all. Honored to have you. Thank you all for everybody that's in the room, and those of you that are not in the room that are watching us, email me, trunltd@aol.com. Email me. I'll put you on the list, and we'll invite you every week so you can ask questions as well and be part of the conversation. We have meetings coming up every Friday until I go on vacation in June. I'm actually taking a 3-week vacation in June, but we will have substitute hosts. So we're going to be consistent. What I do this, people say, why do I do this every week? And I said, because I think consistency is important. I think it's one of my core values, and I just feel like people appreciate being able to know that they can depend that we'll be here every week. So depend on it, guys. We're going to be here every week. Hope you'll all come back. Hope to see you soon. And that's it for me.